everybody, welcome to WTF Hammer Underworlds. So today's going to be another Season 3 Warband review, this time looking at Hrothgorn's Mantrappers, whose backstory basically has them sort of accidentally entering Beastgrave, and basically making efforts to find his way out. As I always do, I'm going to be rating this warband's fighter cards, their faction-specific cards, and I'm going to be rating them and comparing them to other warbands that I've rated, and I'm going to just start by checking out this warband's fighter cards. This is a really interesting warband with a huge variety of the types of units that it has available to them. All units inspire the same way, where an enemy fighter has to be taken out of action when adjacent to Hrothgorn, basically implying that he somehow eats the enemy, which, emboldens him, makes him inspired, and also makes everybody else become inspired because now they know that they are not going to become victim to his hunger. We're going to start with the leader of this warband. This really is more of a one-man team type of warband, although the other units are definitely more useful than Molog's mobs minions. Leader is Hrothgorn. He's a hunter, and interestingly also causes all enemy fighters to be considered quarries, as long as he's still on the board. He has two attacks. He has a range attack and a melee attack, and both are actually very useful. Range attack is pretty inaccurate until he's inspired. 3 range, 2 swords, 2 damage, going to 3 swords, 2 damage, making it a very solid range attack. And also allows him to drag units after making a successful attack action, either 1 hex when uninspired or 2 hexes when inspired. So you can drive him back and then drag him in. It's all pretty cool. He's also got that hunting knife, which is really more of a machete because he's a big dude. 2 hammers, 3 damage, going to 3 hammers, 3 damage when inspired, making it very accurate. Tough unit. 1 shield, not good. 6 wounds, very good. Getting 2 shields when inspired, making him very, very difficult to take out of action. And the 4 move is just a solid movement characteristic. Next is Thrafnir, who's also a hunter, who is pretty straightforward. 3 swords, 2 damage. That's pretty accurate. Getting cleave when inspired. Otherwise, doesn't have any changes, although he does get to re-roll his elongated fangs when inspired. Being an animal, this unit cannot hold objective tokens or be given attack action upgrades. He has 5 movement, 2 dodge, 3 wounds. And next are the Nobblars, starting with Bushwhacka, who is not very threatening in the typical sense. 1 sword, 1 range, 1 damage, going to 2 swords when inspired. 1 dodge, 2 wounds, 2 dodge, 2 wounds, and 4 movement when inspired. But his main perk is the fact that he can drop a 2 damage trap adjacent to himself as a reaction at the end of another fighter's activation, or after his own activation for that matter. And he's immune to it, but all of his companions are not immune to it, and it's basically a 2 damage trap. Very nice. Even ghosts are susceptible to it. Next is Lugget and Thwack, which have 3 wounds, 1 dodge, 4 movement when inspired, 3 wounds, 3 movement otherwise. Not very accurate, just 1 hammer, 1 damage, but get a +1 dice as long as they're not very wounded, implying that, if they're wounded, then there's only 1 of them instead of 2 of them, which is kind of a cool little gameplay detail. And they go up to 2 swords when inspired. And they basically push the target 1 hex as long as they roll fewer successes than the enemy on the attack defense roll, so pretty cool. There's Quiv, who, like the other Nobblars, is not super effective in combat. 2 swords, 1 damage. 3 swords, 1 damage is okay though when he's inspired. But mostly when adjacent to Hrothgorn allows him to get a reroll on his trap launcher attack action, which is nice. Otherwise, 4 movement, 2 dodge, 2 damage, 2 wounds when inspired, so not too shabby. So to overview, pros, these guys have many special abilities. They have the trap launcher pull, they have the trap from Bushwhacka, the Lugget and Thwack push, and the enemy quarry aspect where everybody's a quarry, which is very cool. They have very high wounds, Hrothgorn does at least. They have special combat abilities, cleave when inspired, good movement, particularly when inspired, good defense, particularly when inspired, mostly getting 2 dodge or 2 shield. They have a ranged attacker, they have the hunter keyword, and they have 5 units, which is a solid number of models to be versatile. Cons, that they have a challenging inspire mechanic. It's not so easy to have an enemy unit die adjacent to Hrothgorn, especially since he's tempted to use his range attack action. And the inspiring does do a lot for these guys, so they really do aim to get inspired, so the fact that it's challenging is a bit of a struggle for them. They also have many unexceptional and vulnerable units, which allows enemy units, especially aggressive players, to take them out and score easy glory. And they're heavily dependent on their leader because it's basically a 1-unit warband, although the other units are more useful than Mologs, as I mentioned already. So that does it for the fighter cards. Let's look at the objective cards. And these guys have tons of surge options. Let's take a closer look. Arm of the Everwinter. Score this immediately when your warband removes a feature token from the battlefield or flips a feature token worth 1 glory. So pretty cool. I'm giving it a B. Only real issue is that you have to cater your power deck towards having this be successful, and I'm not sure if destroying objectives is necessarily the best approach for these guys, but it's not a terrible score immediately card. They have Boxed In. Scores immediately after an activation if there are 3 or more friendly fighters adjacent to the same enemy fighter. Worth 1 glory. Pretty unexceptional because you're going to tend to lead with Hrothgorn. I don't know how much you want to throw your Noblars at the enemy, but they are vulnerable, so this could be tough to score. Dinner Time. Surge. Score this immediately when an enemy fighter moves into, is pushed into, or is placed in the same hex as a friendly trap model. So if they end up in the trap and you have this out, you're basically going to score this card. I'm giving it a B because it is very nice as a strategy to try to lure people into that trap one way or another. Extra Crunchy. Score this immediately when your warband takes an enemy fighter with 3 or more upgrades out of action. Worth 2 glory. So obviously circumstantial, but 2 glory for a score immediate is worth an A in my opinion. And Flush Them Out. Score this immediately if your warband pushes an enemy fighter that is not adjacent to your leader, and after the push they are adjacent to your leader, so that could happen through drive back, through power cards, or through the trap launcher pull. So I'm giving that a B. Reasonable to pull off, but still tricky to pull off. Hunter's Feast. 2 glory duel. Score this immediately when your leader's attack action takes an enemy fighter out of action, and your leader made 1 or more attack actions that took an enemy fighter action earlier in that phase. So if Hrothgorn takes out 2 units in the same round, you get 2 glory for accomplishing that. I'm giving that an A because it does depend on the type of warband. If you're fighting against an elite warband, this is difficult, obviously, to pull off. But if you're playing against a horde warband, pretty reasonable to achieve this, and then 2 glory is always very nice for a surge. Surprising Competence. Scores immediately when a friendly Noblar's attack action takes an enemy fighter out of action, worth 1 glory. So C, not reliable. The Noblars do 1 damage, tend to not be the most accurate, tend to not be the best approach for aggressive play, but it's definitely a funny card. Unexpected Cunning, so good it is restricted. Scores immediately after playing the 3rd or subsequent power card in the same phase. This is just a guarantee, worth 1 glory, that's an S. And that does it for the Surge. Next are the score in the end phase cards, starting with Always Moving. Duel. Scores in an end phase if there is at least 1 surviving friendly fighter, and there are no friendly fighters in your territory. So kind of like a score in any round, denial, more or less, worth 2 glory. I'm giving it a C, could be a B. It's a bit of a hard sell. Enemies will typically try to enter your territory to kill your Noblars because they're pretty easy picking, so this is hard to achieve, but 2 glory in an end phase is nice. Butchering. Scores in an end phase if there are more enemy fighters out of action than surviving enemy fighters, worth 2. So a nice late phase card, scored in the 2nd or 3rd possible. 3rd is pretty likely to get achieved as long as Hrothgorn didn't get murked. I'm giving it a B. 5 glory. Annihilation. Momentarily sated. Annihilation is always tough. I'm giving this a B. Could be worth a C. It's hard. I think I've given it C for other warbands, so let's just say it's a C. And finally, top of the food chain. Scores an end phase if your leader is the only surviving leader, so pretty cool. Enemy leader is taken out of action, but only for 1 glory. I'm giving it a C. Particularly hard if you're playing multiplayer mode, although I tend to not rate these based on multiplayer mode. And that does it. So overall, objective cards promote destroying feature tokens, swarming enemies using the trap, killing enemies in various ways, manipulating enemy positions, keeping enemies out of their territory, as in friendly territory, and playing power cards. And on the topic of power cards, let's take a look at them. Starting with the Ploys, no spells obviously. Carnivore Senses, the first attack action made by a friendly hunter in the next activation has Ensnare. So Hrothgorn and your wolf are both hunters. Getting Ensnare is nice. I'm giving this a B. Nice attack accuracy boost. Next is Driven Onwards. Choose a friendly fighter that has 1 or more move tokens and remove those tokens. So a very nice anti-transfixing stare card. Allows Hrothgorn to move twice, which is nice since he's basically a 1-man warband. I'm giving this an A. Frozen Earth. Pick a feature token that contains or is adjacent to your leader. Remove it from the battlefield. Restricted to Hrothgorn. Pretty cool. Doesn't necessarily require you to be on the feature token. Allows you to get that Surge objective card. I'm giving it a B. It's pretty good. Noblar Scramble. Push each Noblar 2 hexes. That's very nice push card. I'm giving it an S. Gotcha. Play this after a friendly fighter's successful trap launcher attack action that does not take the target out of action. Give the target a move token, so that's pretty cool. Nail him with a trap. You could pull him if you want to, or drive him back. Whatever you choose to do. Give him a move token could really screw their plans, although it is contingent on that successful trap launcher attack, which is not guaranteed. I'm giving it an A, but it could be worth a B. Icy Breath. Choose an enemy fighter within 3 hexes of your leader and roll a magic dice. There's basically a 66% chance that they're dealt damage. So pretty nice. I'm giving it a B. I'd given it an S, obviously, if it was a guaranteed damage, but it's not guaranteed. More traps. Pick a feature token in a hex that contains or is adjacent to a friendly bushwhacker. Flip that token. So a second card that allows you to flip feature tokens turns them into a trap. Well, not really a trap, but a lethal hex. So I'm giving that a C. It is nice, but it requires Bushwhacker to move forward and be alive, and people tend to want to kill him because they hate his trap, so it's definitely hard to achieve this. Near Miss. As a reaction, play this after a friendly hunter's failed attack action. Push the target 1 hex. So, I mean, it's okay. It requires you to fail an attack with a hunter. Not great. I'll give it a B because pushing is nice, but it could be worth a C. Quick Snack. Restricted to Hrothgorn. After an enemy fighter adjacent to your leader is taken out of action, if they have 4 or more wound characteristic, he heals 2. Otherwise, he heals 1. So pretty nice healing potion-ish card, although dependent on you killing stuff that's adjacent to you. Would inspire you as well if you're not already inspired. I'm giving it a B. Might be worth an A. Really depends on your gameplay style. Ravenous Fury. As a reaction, play this after your leader's failed range 1 attack action. He can make another attack action. Very nice. I gave it a B. I would give it an A. Or rather, I am giving it an A in my mind. I just put it as a B because I know that I've ranked similar cards as a B for other warbands, but I have agreed through conversations with people in the comment sections of other videos that this is actually worth an A, so that's what I'm giving it. And that does it for the Ploy cards, which promote improving attack accuracy, removing move or objective tokens, pushing friendly Noblars, inhibiting or manipulating enemy movement, causing damage, and healing Hrothgorn. And this leads us into the upgrades. First one being Desperate Parry, restricted to any Noblar. As a reaction during an attack action that targets this fighter, before the deal damage step, roll a defense dice on a shield or a crit, so 50% chance the combat sequence ends and this fighter is dealt no damage. So pretty cool way to save a Noblar. I'm going to give it a B. Famed Hunter, restricted to Hrothgorn. You can re-roll an attack dice in this fighter's attack rolls. So very nice. Every attack he makes, range or melee, you can re-roll. Probably worth an S. I gave it an A because I've given similar cards in other warbands an A, but Hrothgorn being your main attacker is going to profit a lot from this card. Hunting Beast. As a reaction after this fighter's successful attack action, pick one. Push the target 1 hex or push the fighter 1 hex, restricted to Thrafnir. So it gives Thrafnir some pushing options. I'm giving it a B. Living Avalanche. +1 damage. Great strength for Hrothgorn. Super nice. I'm giving it an A. Massive Bulk. So great card. Basically sudden growth. I'm giving that an S. Definitely reduces mobility, but makes him tough as balls. 8 wounds, 2 shields when inspired. And he's going to get a damage reduction, as you'll see a little bit later. Plucky Pair. Rolls of support are successes for Luggett and Thwack's defense and attack rolls. So that's pretty cool, but I'm giving it a C because these guys are not top tier units. Savage Instinct. The range 1 and 2 attack actions all have Ensnare, so very good anti-dodge. I'm giving it a B. It's nice that it applies to everybody. Could be worth an A. Really depends on the warband you're facing. Next is Scion of the Everwinter. As an action, give each adjacent enemy fighter 1 move token, restricted to Hrothgorn. So nice if you plan to have him put himself in the middle of enemies, but that is risky. Not sure I recommend that as a strategy. And it takes an action, which means that the enemy will be able to respond directly afterward. I'm giving it a C. Toughened Hide. This is the damage reduction 1, restricted to a hunter. So you could put it on Thrafnir, but you're probably not going to. It's even restricted. I'm giving this an S. Makes Hrothgorn super tanky, especially when combined with Massive Bulk and him being inspired. And finally, Veteran Hunter. As an action, drop to 2 power cards, restricted to everybody except for Thrafnir. Definitely makes it nice if you sort of run out of activations with Hrothgorn. Drawing 2 power cards is better than drawing 1. I'm giving it an A. And that does it. So upgrades, promote, protecting the Noblars, toughening Hrothgorn, improving accuracy, improving damage, manipulating enemy position, inhibiting enemy movement, and drawing power cards. And that basically does it for the synopsis here. So if you look at the overall ratings that I've given these warbands, pretty good, not amazing. Lots of B tier, a few S's which are ending up in every deck, quite a few A's which are very nice, ending up in most decks, I'm sure, depending on the meta. Overall, good cards and not overpowered though, in my opinion. So with all the fighter cards and faction specific cards reviewed, let's just rate this warband. So first point, Hrothgorn is a badass. He has solid ranged and melee attacks. He has good defense. He has good movement. He's a hunter. He has great upgrades. That's all I got to say about Hrothgorn. But it can be difficult to inspire him and the rest of the party. He's a bit subpar until he's inspired, which requires him to make a successful melee attack, which is not the most accurate, which can leave Hrothgorn vulnerable because he's forced to engage the enemy while not being super defensive and not being super accurate. These guys do, however, have some very useful faction-specific cards. They have 2 restricted cards, though, which force this warband to make hard choices. And Hrothgorn's minions, at least when compared to Molog's minions, are generally competent. They can hold objectives, they can use trap, they can make decent attacks, at least Thrafnir can. So when I look at this warband as a whole, I have decided to rate them as an A. I like them. I don't think that there's many changes that need to be made, and this is how I rank them with regard to all the other warbands. I actually put them still behind Thundrik's Profiteers, because I feel like Thundriks are really on the verge of being S-ranked. They're very powerful, their range attacks are good, they do a lot of damage, they're accurate, they can score lots of glory pretty easily without having to do too much. I don't feel like Hrothgorn's Mantrappers are quite at that level of being able to get glory and to affect aggressive play. In fact, if Hrothgorn decided to charge into Thundrik's Profiteers 3 out of 4 times, I'm sure Hrothgorn would just get shot down with gunfire. I do put them above Stormsire's Cursebreakers, though, because they are more versatile, and I feel that they are a generally superior warband, but not by too much. Stormsire's is still very solid, in my opinion. So this is my grid as it stands. I still have quite a few warbands left to review. 3 for Beastgrave and 2 for Dire Chasm, and there's going to be a 3rd one for Dire Chasm coming out soon. So obviously this ranking will be finalized, at least up to date, fairly soon, but this is my current rendition of it. And anyway, that does it for my video. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any thoughts or suggestions, please comment below. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And as I always do, I'm going to be posting the link for the balancing video, so the balancing recommendations that I have for Hrothgorns that Games Workshop could use if they wanted to make the game better, but they won't. But it is what it is, and I hope you guys watch that video if you do enjoy that kind of content. And I thank you guys again for watching this video, and I hope you all have a nice day.